Hello, welcome to the fourth seminar in the 2026 series of the London Digital Classicist seminar. Welcome to everybody watching live on YouTube and watching later, and welcome also to everybody here in the room with us in London. Today we have Michele Corti from the University of Siena and the Museo Galileo and the Institute for the History of Science in Florence, who's working on the REHEP 3D project, creating a new edition of Hero Pneumatica. If you're watching live online, please do feel free to leave any questions in the chat that Michele can answer at the end and say where you're watching along from. Great, so now I'll hand over to Michele to talk about a multimedial edition of Hero Alexandrinus Pneumatica. Thank you, Michele.
Thank you for having me here in London. I'm very happy to present the project which I'm working. And okay, we can start with the PowerPoint. So the title of this seminar is Multimedial Edition of Hero Alexandrinus Pneumatica, and it shows which type of working we are carrying on. As Katie was saying, I'm having a scholarship funded by these two institutions based in Tuscany, University of Siena and Museo Galileo. Which is an institute of history of science, specialized in them. And the name of the project means this, so rediscovering Hero Pneumatica, new edition, 3D reconstruction, and interactive exhibits, which aims to merge classical text with multimedial and technological knowledges. So before starting to and coming to the point where classical and technology merges, let's do a little focus on Hero and on the studies on the history of the ancient science. So history of ancient science and especially history of applied science wasn't so much studied, and there were for a lot of time, for many times, there was these ideas written by Peter Marshall Fraser in Ptolemaic Alexandria, and he has this idea of ancient Ptolemaic science that maybe is the most improved of the experience of science in the classical world. And what Fraser taught is, I think, well expressed by these three following quotes. So before leaving this general picture of Alexandrian mathematics, there is one rather Cinderella-like branch, which must be briefly surveyed, that of applied mechanics. The application of mechanics to everyday life might not be expected to, and indeed did not, advance very far. Yet, even so, many of these inventions are nothing but toys. There are some errors on the slide. I apologize for this. But yes, these are three quotes that shows what was the main thought about this. And I have to say that luckily these things are gone far than this, but it's an idea that sometimes we can still find about ancient science. And it's also interesting to say that Peter Marshall Fraser talks about applied science in Ptolemaic Alexandria in just 2 pages of this work, his work. His work, you can see that is made by 3 books and more than 1,000 pages. So also the number of pages in which it talks about it seems peculiar to me. But I don't think so, especially that applied science didn't go very far, because also literary texts say something about science. And especially this one, this is a quote by Petronius, Satyricon. We are doing the Trimalchius dinner, and the protagonist, Colpius, is is looking around. He said, "Totum circumspicere tircinium cepi, ne per parietem automatum aliquod dexire." So he started looking at every at every edge, at every angle of the room, because he fears that something will come out. Because this during Trimarchius dinner, there are these gadgets, there are a lot of mechanical events, and so he tries to find someone else, something, if there is something more. And I know it is fictional, but it seems to me that these gadgets were known in real life, if also Petronius inserted them in his work. So now, who was Hero Alexandrinus? Hero Alexandrinus lived in the 1st century, in the century of the Christian era. And as you can see from his works, from the list of his works, he had a lot of interest. He worked in Alexandria, and he wrote about mathematical works regarding the application of theoretic knowledge, like the opera of optics, works regarding contrivances realized through the application of scientific principles, such as Belopoeca, Hero Mechanica, Baruch's Automata and Pneumatica, of which I'm working, and various other works, comment on Euclid, Zeuge, and on the water clocks. These works we don't know have so much passages, but you can see there is an author with a lot of interest, and he is also important because looking to the works of the third group, he is also our way to know other ancient engineers, such like Ctesibius and Philo of Byzantium, that were authors lived in the 3rd century before Christian era. We don't have so much of them, especially from Ctesibius. We don't have his works. We have something about Philo of Byzantium, but we are pretty sure that most of the content that there was in this work, in that works, has been reused by Hero and improved. So these are the edition of this day, the modern editions of Pneumatica. These are the three, the biggest and also the only one that we have. The first on the left is the edition, the German edition made by Schmidt for Teubner. Is edited in 1899. Then we have the English one, made by Bennett Woodcroft, dated in 1851. And then we have the latest on the right, the French edition of Gilbert Argout and Jean-Yves Guillaumin, edited in 1997. Okay, so this is the general frame which we are working. And now let's go to see more in the focus of our presentation, and let's see how and where we can merge technical and classical. So now I will show you a selection of framings of pages from manuscripts. We have to say that for Pneumatica we have about 100 manuscripts bringing the text, and most of them falls in the category that I will show you in these slides. The first one is manuscripts that bring the text, but without drawings. We can see here in this Parisinus the capital letters that splits the paragraphs from one to another. There are not so much manuscripts that presents this layout, but there are. Most interesting, most important are manuscripts like this, with drawings in the text. This this manuscript is preserved here in London, in the British Library. Is the Barney 81, and you can see that the text is shaped in a way that he can receive that the drawing can be made inside the text. And another example of this category is this located in Leipzig. That presents the same layout of the page. You can see also some already here some differences between one drawing and the other. I don't know if you can see well this one because maybe it's too little, but confronted to this, you already see that the second one is more clear, more schematic, and that's a point. But we will talk about this later. And then we have this other category, so manuscripts with drawings at the end of the paragraph, and particularly interesting this one. Manuscripts that should have had drawings, but actually they don't. And there are a lot of these manuscripts that were ready to have drawings, but we don't know how. For what of the philological reason behind this, we don't have. But this is important because we already can see that this should have been designed. This should be drawn as manuscript. This is another example, and there are actually a lot. Schmidt in his Stemma Codicum made some divisions between manuscripts that brings only one part of the text or only another one part of the text. And this division that I made here from type of layouts is well spread between all the branch of the traditions. So now let's go to see how the representation of drawings change in Renaissance and modern editions. These are the drawings that I take from the Italian Renaissance Pneumatica's edition. They are based on the edition made by Commandino in 1575, which is basically a translation from Greek to Latin. And on these translations draw the editions of Aleotti and Giorgi that you can see on the right. And also we can see that they draw on Commandino also for the drawings. These three are drawings from the hydraulic organ, and basically it's the same drawing. You can see there are not so much difference between these three types. And these as final steps are drawings in modern editions. There are the editions that I presented before, so Schmidt, Woodcroft, and Guillemin. And we can see that they are more three-dimensional confronted to the drawings that we had in manuscripts. And so why I made also this sort of history of drawings, because they are, in my opinion, but not also mine. There is this inseparability of text and image. In fact, one cannot comprehend the text without drawing, and conversely, I think also one cannot comprehend drawings without the text. I bring my personal experience while working on the comments of the paragraphs. One of the first things that I do in order to understand better the text and also the translation that I made is taking a web page and started to draw following the hero's description, because the paragraph of Pneumatica I didn't say before are just like instruction to rebuild these consequences. So you find something like let there be a siphon, and then over this put this, and so on. And I think it's very useful try to remake the drawing, because this connection between text and drawings is indispensable for judging the authenticity of drawings, because the closer they correspond, more likely it's that they are true derivative of the original. But the presence of the lettering in the text is the strongest indication of their existence, because as I said before, in the text, Heron says something like let there be a siphon named AB. Over this, put a vessel named CD, or something like goes on in this way. But accordance alone is not sufficient to establish if a drawing is authentic or not, because also in the drawings we find the lettering, and this is the the way we can match drawing to image. And but why is it's not sufficient to establish this? Lefebvre says this one. This is an article appeared 24 years ago, which I find really good. It says something very interesting. He says that so far as the drawings are nothing but geometrical diagrams constructed in accordance with clear, ambiguous, and even lettered passages in the text, one can treat them as ancient ones. So, in Lefebvre's view, diagrams, the original diagrams are schematic, as the one that I show in the Leipzig manuscript, because they guarantee higher intelligibility. In his view, also, the supposed original diagrams present a vertical cross section, so there is no perspective. But related to this point, he says that in Greek drawings there is no perspective because the section is vertical, but is shown the shape of mouth of the vessels that goes out of the perspective. And what does it mean? That when we came in contact with with manuscripts like this two, following Lefebvre article, the first one on the left should be more likely to be ancient, and the one on the right should be more likely to be late, because what really means to these engineers or whatever they were, or whatever ways the name is more appropriate for these ancient people. What is what really means is the inner functioning of these devices. So how the tube were related to each other and how it should have worked. The diagram on the right, taken by the Parazinus Greek 2512, is a really nice drawing, but it's fulfilled with a lot of aesthetical things, just like the statues, the shell on the background. And so in a technical text, maybe this is too much. This is something that we shouldn't be focused in. You have to read the text and you have to understand how to make it. Then the aesthetic will come later, of course. So another example also for the same contrast is like this too. There is one on the left, the schematic presented cross vertical. The other one on the right is it has this perspective, and also a little bit more confused because there are these three tubes under the basement, and we also cannot understand very well where they are going. Whether in the frontal section, you can see very clearly that one came down from the right, one from the left, and then goes in the middle. And another example of this, the latest example, is this one taken from the scarlet old fountain, which is one of the contrivances that had more fortune, especially during Italian Renaissance. It is taken from as example to realize fountains in Villa d'Este at Tivoli, for example. And what I was saying before of the shape of the mouth of the vessels, you can see on the left at the left part of the basement, where these are these tubes. You can see the one with the one colored by yellow that has this mouth. I don't know if I can show you, if I can point it some way. But yes, the siphon on the left has this this circle at the end that shows that it should have been a round vessel. And also the basement of the column on the left. You can see there is this red circle that that breaks the perspective. And this is one thing that Lefebvre say it should be typical of ancient diagrams. So this is another one, another example of which I was saying from more clearer, simpler, and on on one end, and on the other end something that is more that has more perspective and it is more aesthetic. The importance of the diagrams was known also in ancient times. This is quote from Athenaeus Mechanicus, the Machinist, that say that the operan crines eschematographemena panta estai ta mechanemata caeto ente lexei diusfraston, excuse me, epoton eudelon estai. So when you will have made the decision, all machines will be rendered graphically with them. And this is a good point, I think. What may remain indistinct in the description will become clear. this is also a diagram taken from a Lefebvre article that shows the words that we know talking about applied science, and in most of them there are figures. Also in yes, most of them. Some of them are Byzantine. In 7 of them maybe are also authentic images. So coming up to the point, what's new in my edition of pneumatics? Why I've talked so much about diagrams and merging with text? Because we want to take this connection between text and image and make it stronger, applying a multimedia layer. In fact, we started with manuscript diagrams that are cross-vertical without perspective. Then we came with the diagrams, the drawings of the editions, in which we can find more perspective, we can find more details, and then we want to arrive to something more that use 3D technologies. In our edition, there will be for some gadgets, for some paragraphs, there will be a QR code in the page. And this QR code on the page will bring to a 3D reconstruction of the device. We can show a prototype. Yes, thank you, Gabby. So one can read the text, look in the translation, and then you also can use this to understand better the construction. This is the contrast described at the 16th paragraph of the first book. The previous also reminded Old Fontaine. And I think that the 3D reconstruction brings in some benefits in comparison to the static drawings. Can I go turn back to so what are these benefits? It's more immersive and reader friendly. So this allows us to have a better fruition and hopefully higher clarity. Also allowing us to talk also to a public that is not so much expert, so much not so much expert of these devices, this author, and the 3D reconstruction, the videos, also can bring to a deeper comprehension devices build up, because one thing is that when you have a dynamic model, a static figure that says, okay, it is in this way, but applying the 3D reconstruction, we can also bring the reader to have more clear each of the passages that bring to the device. It's not just something that is presented in this way, and you have to say, okay, it's this. But with the animation, we can actually following the reconstruction of the device. So we can turning back to the video, we can see the point where the water actually goes down, and so when the water goes down, we can follow the text and seeing that yes, water, as Heron says, has gone down, and so at this point, I can see the siphon activates, and then so the air goes to the birds that sings. So the siphon is going down, and now I can see that actually when it goes down, the old turns. It makes more embedded in our idea, and so it has another one benefit to me, that is for the editor. It's not, before coming up to the readers. Working with the 3D reconstruction allows the editor of these works to highlight some problems that could exist. I mean, I was working with this worker from the Museo Galileo, this Fabio Corica, and I would say thanks to him, his the 3D reconstruction, his own works, and we were talking about so some things that it's not so much clear in the Greek text, because Heron says that at this point says this, but in this way, if I try to take the text, bring the text to the proof of the facts. Maybe we can see that some passages are more problematic, not in a philological way, but actually in a physical way, in order to reconstruct the machines. And so it brings also us to problems that maybe we don't have considered before, because we had only the drawings and we take them as good. But try to actually reconstruct them. It also permits us to face problems that maybe before this they were never taken in charge. And then also I think is a good proof a posteriori that the devices were really realized in ancient times. So in order to I come to the end. These works permit us to merge 3D technologies and classical text, and also permit us to insert in the discussion about the actual realization of Hero's devices, because yes, I said there was the Fraser opinion 50 years before, but then I think as Tatiana Boer says in this in this article, we should make more of the vessels chosen by technical authors to demonstrate mechanical principles, given the ways that these objects have contextual and material connotations, which enrich our understanding of the cultural life of the objects and the text within which they are embedded. It also suggests, this is the interesting part, that the cultural coherence of the objects constructed were as important as the technical principles demonstrated, and that these were not armchair inventions, as certain scholars have suggested in the past. And I think she's referring to an article, to an essay about of Orion Wilson, Machines in Greek and Roman Technology. So this is the aim of this work that I'm carrying. We have still 1 year of work ahead, and we are trying to go on this way to merging 3D and classics and give something that has benefits not only for classic reader, but also for I think visitors of museums, and also, and we would like to present also something that could be groundbreaker in the presentation of this text. because going beyond the drawings, of course, starting from the drawings, but going beyond them through the modern technologies, it gives us the possibility to present better this text, and that's our work. So, thank you for your attention, for your kindness, and I'm open to questions if there are.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Michele. Just a reminder for anyone watching live online, if you do have any questions, please put them in the chat and we can read them out. So are there any questions from anyone here in the room? Or in which case I might start and just ask if you could tell us a little bit more detail about the process of making the 3D models. And the example that you showed us, the very nice video, that was from a drawing that was in a manuscript. Have you tried to make any 3D models of anything that there isn't a drawing from? That there isn't a drawing in a manuscript? Or is there a drawing in a manuscript of basically everything in the text?
Yes, we start from the diagrams that are in the manuscripts, because we think that the connection should have been strong also in antiquity or in the Renaissance. These manuscripts are all taken from 13th to 16th centuries. So unfortunately, we don't have something more ancient. But yes, we try to start from this. This is the base also for philological reasons, starting from something that we have actually. I don't know if I respond to your question.
That was indeed, yeah, great. More questions from in the room?
Yes, thank you very much. But to use a the question out of ignorance, is there hope? I don't know. These sorts of images in manuscripts and those from antiquity, are we right in assuming that, say, these manuscripts, when they were on papyrus antiquity, these papyri would have also had diagrams on, and that those have been based on it? And is there any hope? I don't know. With is there anything at all in papyrus diagrams? This is such what I'm trying to get at.
Actually, I don't know. There is something. Yeah. I hope, yes. Also, my hope, because that will allow us to have something also more ancient. Yeah. But at this time, I am not aware of something existing on papyrus. And that's a shame, because I would be very happy.
How are you going to publish a new edition?
When?
Publish is the right word.
Or how?
How are you going to?
It will be a book, with a book, but with this QR code inside. So one can scan with telephone and having physically the images and the material book. Yes, it'll be the newest thing is this QR code redirecting through to yes, this technical and to these digital drawings and reconstructions.
So where will the QR code takes you? Where will that live? Who's going to make sure that that will last for the 100 years that the book will last? How will that work?
Excuse me?
So I think this is a question about the
durability of the QR code. Okay.
Part.
It should be, yes. It should be released thanks to the Museo Galileo. It should be they will make the QR code and provide the durability of the this kind of redirection, because we were looking there is something similar also on YouTube. For example, I see some diagrams from Kotsana's museum in Athens. There is a museum that also has reconstruction of this kind of gadgets. But of course, if you can realize something that is in-house, you also have the control on the QR code, and to guarantee that's also from the next years, you actually also have the digital part of the book, not only something that doesn't work and doesn't lead to nothing.
So if the 3D models have to move, the QR codes can be read out to still point to them.
Yes.
If you control the QR codes, right? That's smart.
Or if the scholarship changes on how the mechanism worked, you could update the digital element.
That's fine.
Or would that
Question.
Would that be misleading? Because you just said something different in the book, wouldn't you? Possibly. If they fall out of sync with what you said. So if in the book you've said, we understand it this way, here's a drawing of it, and here's a 3D model, and you later change the 3D model, it no longer matches the book. That might be a problem, isn't it?
But isn't the book just the text? Just the text. So therefore, that's not the question.
So is it just the text? Yeah, that is the question. Does the book also have commentary on your commentary?
Yes.
Yes.
The book also has my commentary. Yes.
Will the book have sort of a I don't know, like a screenshot of the 3D model with the QR code, or just the QR code? Because it's very early. So
I don't know. We were thinking of course, there will be diagrams, because unfortunately in one year we can't do the 3D reconstruction of every gadget, because every paragraph, because there are 18 paragraphs, so it's a lot of work. So we're trying to do this first prediction, and then maybe we can, if this goes well, we can think to do something more broader and larger. So, but for the QR code paragraphs, I think we will go to present the diagram of an edition, and then the 3D reconstructions only in the QR code.
I have a question about the objects, the mechanisms that you describe. You talked about how some earlier scholars claimed they were all, sort of they were toys rather than anything else, and that wasn't quite. You didn't quite agree with that. Could you give us an example of one that does something very practical? So the examples we've seen are, as I understand it, there's a model that, for example, that do sort of fun things like, making model birds sing and things like that, or you have models that demonstrate physical principles. Is there anything that's slightly more obviously has a practical or commercial or something application?
Okay, very good question. Thanks. I start to say one thing about pneumatics. That was it was saying by an historian of science that he was talking about pneumatics. He was saying that whether mechanics explains some principles, you realize the gadget to explain some principles. With pneumatics, the process is inverse. So you create the gadget to explain the principle. And so there are two types of gadgets in pneumatics. One type is more focused on the marvelous, to wondering the beholders, and is something like the old fountains that has two layers of understanding, because there is one layer that is the first one, of the common people, and they say, "Oh wow, it's beautiful, birds are singing," and then there is a more deeper layer, that is the layer for the other students, other ancient engineers. I don't like so much the words engineer, because I think it's more modern. It's a difficult category, but let's just say engineers for facility. And another one who knows about pneumatics, about how physics works. He doesn't stop to, oh wow, wonderful, birds are singing, but there is a level in which one can say, okay, how physically does it work? And then there is another type of gadget that are more it is more useful, and this type of gadgets were used especially during symposia. There are some things. Hero talks about some 3 types of ritons that he makes with bolts, and in a way that something there is this riton that if you tap a hole, it bring out water. If you don't do it, it brings bring out wine. And so there are these gadgets. Also some, so it's like the advertisement, but it had a function in ancient life. And then there is also in this category the gadgets made for the temple. He talks about this Landers call it a dispenser, in order to matching with something more modern. That is this vessel in which you can put a coin, and then the coin falls on a plate. This plate goes down, and then it opens a box inside that has liquid, and so this liquid came up from a spout in which also you put the end. So it's like a modern dispenser. And also there are some other 2 gadgets that Hero presents, saying, as we can see in the Egyptian temples. So it's what's like he was taking from experience, experience from the real life, and then making something useful, but also based on the pneumatic strips. Go ahead.
Great. Any questions online? Please put them in the chat if you're listening online, or raise your hand. I was wondering whether there were any models that you tried to make that didn't work. Were there any problems that you came across in moving from the sort of schematic drawings to a 3D model, where you had to make some leap that wasn't necessarily so obvious from the text?
Yeah, this is a point we are studying, because maybe there are some problems, and also in antiquity there is this rewriting of pneumatics that Schmidt called the pseudo-Heron, lived in the 6th century of the Christian era, that rewrites some of the paragraphs of Heron. So yes, maybe there was something that it could have not worked, but yes, well, this point also came in contact with the work of pneumatics itself, because there is this one of the biggest problems of the pneumatics is the order of the paragraphs, because the first eight they are more simple. It talks about siphons and so on. That's something that he uses very in each paragraph, each following paragraph. And then there are many scholars studied this the order of the paragraphs that sometimes really seems doesn't have logic. So it's a problem also where maybe it was he writes then there was problems, so he wrote back and changed some paragraphs because maybe okay, this gadget in this way doesn't work, because also there is also the fact that in order to write these things, he should I think he should also have created in order to experience how much water can fill, how much water it takes to cool down something. So yeah, maybe yes, there is one thing. At one point, he wrote something, but so it didn't work. And maybe one option could be that he didn't have time to change it. Yes. So yes, this is one of the problems linked to this text. Of course.
Did you try to make any of the objects sort of non-digitally, as in physically build them yourself?
No, unfortunately not.
Because it's possible to make 3D models of things that are not possible in real life as well, isn't it? So sometimes,
yeah,
you might still have a problem with it.
Yeah, no, unfortunately not, because I'm not so able in handwork. So if I try to reconstruct something, obviously it won't work as well. But yes, it also should be an option to do.
Going back to Greek vase painting as examples of ancient drawings, even as far back as 500 BC, there is sometimes perspective and foreshortening in the drawings, even though they may not have fully articulated the principles of drawing in perspective, but they were doing it. Do we have to completely assume that only the flat 2D drawings are the original ones?
Oh, okay. I take them from an article of Fairbairn. This is a good question. He was, I think his reason was based only in applied science treatises. So when he says that there is no perspective, he is talking only about this type of works. Also, whether there was perspective in other fields of knowledge. So when he's saying something like this, I think he's taking as example of only this type of text.
Sort of related to that, I'm assuming in those manuscripts, the people drawing those diagrams, I'm assuming they're scribes, not draftsmen.
Excuse me?
The people who are actually doing the diagrams in the manuscripts, I'm assuming it might be separate. Is presumably the same person, the same hand that actually does the writing, and therefore it would make sense if there is perspective in sort of actual artistic context, creative art, rather than manuscript tradition, where the person who is writing this down is not an artist and is, their speciality is copying out text, and actually I've got to draw something, and that's not really my thing. Therefore, I'm going to do this, and actually these laws of perspective, and naturally the drawings will seem much cruder compared to creative art.
But presumably that's why there's so many manuscripts with gaps.
Presumably,
There was going to be
because somebody would come in and do it. Yeah. Could be both as well.
Yeah, it could be.
Well, they could be allowed to, stick a piece of paper with drawing on the top.
Yes.
Yeah, no, it's exactly.
Yeah.
That does suggest a different person, or at least a different visit to the page. You might be coming back with a pencil, and when the ink was dry, you come back and you'd actually rule it carefully.
Yeah.
Not a pencil.
Yeah, there are a lot of possibilities about them, because of course we only have some drawings, some manuscripts where drawings are there, and so.
And I guess those drawings, they're designed to sort of demonstrate something as opposed to be aesthetically pleasing. So you can afford to be a bit cruder. It's your IKEA wardrobe diagram. If you saw that, you wouldn't necessarily want to buy this thing. You spoke about that alone, but it's there to demonstrate, already there's mechanical processes.
Yeah, yes.
But I suppose with the vase painting, there was a convention in vase painting where it was very flat. But just from time to time, you just get an extraordinary artist that comes along and does everything 3D and foreshortens everything. So you might not need to definitively say that nobody ever could draw that way, even when they were doing a mechanical or a scientific drawing. There could have been someone's brain just worked that way, maybe, if that allowed for thinking about some of the other drawings as well as possibilities of how models work.
Yeah, maybe. I think that the flat drawing and this this benefit to highlights the functioning, the inner functioning of the contrivance. So maybe it's this one, this line that don't say that, okay, maybe it should have been this way, because they were so much artists and they're focused on something else than it's the physical outcome of the thing.
But we know that scribes and copyists innovated, even ancient scribes.
Yeah.
So even if Heron himself only ever drew very schematic drawings, a scribe 100 years later might well have come along and said, "Oh, I can draw this better."
Yeah, of
maybe
course.
it's a bit prettier. It doesn't necessarily mean that drawing, which I think is Sarah's point, if it has perspective, it is automatically a 16th century drawing. It could be done. There's certainly no possibility.
Some things are things that come later. For example, in the drawing of the paragraph 1.16. If I found back this one, the drawing on the right, it puts the device in this rock buildings, because it's actually it is in the text that Heron says that this contrivance will work when there is when the water flows constantly. So put this on it or inside inside the rocks. And I think it was maybe later copyists that say, "Oh wow, it says let's put it let's make the drawing this way." But I think that the more important part wasn't the landscape, the place where putting it, but inner functioning.
I wondered if you'd compared at all this question of very schematic versus more artistic or realistic drawings, if you'd compared illustration in medical texts, if we had any ancient examples of that, if there was anything similar we could say about that.
Actually, I didn't read so much of. Can I have? Sorry, my computer is running out of energy, and I respond back to you. I should see the medical manuscripts. Yes, that's a good point. Also, because there is this connection between pneumatics and ancient medicine, also for the functioning of I think lungs. They I don't remember who, but there is links with also Erasistratus and the theory of void, and this is our philosophical passages. That's also Heron. It's also Hero takes in the introduction, and so yes, there is this link with this coherence between these branches of science. And yes, it's a good point. I of course will have a look of the descriptions.
It also made me think, just as an aside, your models of the Atlami project.
Yeah.
Come across that?
Yeah. No, I was
precisely doing this with making 3D models of ancient descriptions of anatomy. So not reconstructing the human heart as we know it to be, but reconstructing the human heart as Aristotle described it, and seeing how it worked. Sorry, I know you know this. I'm just sort of explaining to give more context to my question. But so yeah, they presumably have had this same sort of thinking about how much they're basing on text, how much they're basing on diagrams, what those relationships are. So that might be somewhat of that conversation.
Great. Well, if there are no more questions here in the room or online, then it remains just to thank our speaker for a fascinating presentation. Next week on the 17th of July, if you're watching this live, the presentations will continue online. So Burak Boşdurmaz from Koç University will talk about mapping the blue horizon, a digital approach to the blue range colour complex in classical Latin literature, 2nd century BC to AD. So please join us online for that next week. And thank you very much again, Michele, for your presentation.
Thank you for